So this is Gap Beach, probably one of the most beautiful beaches in Australia, if not the world, but then I guess we're a bit prejudiced about that. And this area here used to be very heavily infested with lantana, cotton bush, some tobacco, but the tobacco seems to have died out. The area was once farmed, so a lot of this area behind me was cleared, and the regeneration's happening with a lot of the native plants, but we did get a lot of blow-in weeds, which have been an ongoing problem, but they're starting to diminish now. And what we find is we've got a few like garden escapes, like this plant here, which is billygoat weed, Ageratum houstonianum, and it has a very pretty blue flower which people often used to use in their gardens, and unfortunately the seed is blown around by the wind and gets into all sorts of places. And the problem with it has an ability to grow in shade and sun, which is a pretty good adaptation if you're a plant. The other thing is where it touches the ground, it sends out roots. Now this one, they've got quite a vigorous root system, and we try and get most of the roots out. But you can see perhaps here where the roots have started to come along the stem, so everywhere where that touches the ground it will put out a root. So what we do is get as much as we can and then come back and monitor, and that's part of the advantage of having a good long-term project like we've got. I mean, we've been working in this area for more than 20 years, and that sounds like a long time, and indeed it is a long time, but the results are amazingly good if you just keep coming back, getting the weeds as they start off, and the native plants very quickly take over, and soon they do the job of keeping the weeds out, and all we're doing is assisting nature to redress the balance from weeds to native plants. It's very simple nowadays. As long as I have phone coverage, which I do, I just press my GPS program, wait till it gets the accuracy of about 5 meters, press that button, share the location by mail to myself, and I just put in billygoat weed. And the date will come with the email, so I just send that now. Those coordinates come back to my email. So now I'll demonstrate how I get the Google Earth placemark onto my mapping system from my email system. So I sent an email to myself with the location of the billygoat weed at Gap Beach. So I open up my mail program, and here is the email that I sent on the 1st of September, and it gives various coordinates, but I'm going to use the southings and eastings. I simply copy them, which on a Mac is Command C. I then open my Google Earth Pro database, and I post into the search engine, which is up here, Command V on a Mac, and I go search. I click on that, and that will bring me into the position where we found the billygoat weed, and that looks pretty correct. And so what I do now is I save that to my places. So you'll see a little box came up here with a mark on it, but it's just got the GPS coordinates. So I go to edit, rename, so I'm going to call it BGW 01 09 17, and that's saved. So now I open my database, which has a whole lot of
folders in it. It's got land ownership, fire history, catchments, work management units, work activity, work directives, site surveys, native seeds. But what we're looking for is weed infestations. So I'll just drag this box down to give myself a bit more room. So I look at weed infestations, and there's the billy goat weed there. So what I do is I drag this one up and put it into that folder, and there it is there. Now if I want to put some other information in there, on a Mac I go Command I, and that opens up a dialog box. I can move the point if I wish to, but I don't. But I will put in a note here that small infestation was hand removed, need to revisit site within 12 months. And that's all I need to do there, just to remind myself that there's a small infestation which we could revisit. Then I go OK. So that's now in there. I can close that dialog box. Close this dialog box. I've updated my database, so I go Command S in a Mac, so I'm saving that. I'm saving it to my current file. I don't really want to change the name, I just want to update the file, so I'll just say yes, replace, and now I've updated my database, and I think that huge database, which if you look at here, for instance, you get an enormous amount of information saved on here. I can put in the catchments, I can put in the work management units, I can put in work activity, which really makes it colourful. I can then turn all these things off and on at will. So let's get rid of the catchments, and I get rid of that, and I get rid of the work activity, but I want to have a look at, we could have a look at Bitou bush infestations, for instance. We'll turn a few more things off. So you can look at Bitou bush infestations in 2000, it looked like that. We had a fire in 2001, so it expanded the area of infestation because we weren't up and running and getting lots of grants and lots of activity as volunteers. But so by 2005 it looked like that, but then by 2010 we had got to start to work, and so we'd reduced it significantly. As you can see up here at Back Creek, there's a huge amount of Bitou bush. We didn't actually start working on there until about 2012, and certainly south from the lighthouse we didn't do much there as well. So by 2014 it looked like that. I haven't mapped it more recently, but I will do very soon, and most of that red is now gone. So we've been pretty successful with the Bitou bush, but this is a very good way of looking at how progress has gone. But if we hadn't have done anything, this is what I estimate it would have looked like after the fire and after all the areas which had been burnt were colonised by Bitou bush, and it would have looked something like that. So it's a significant change from that to that. So, and when I map for the current 2017, there'll be very few red patches on there. There's a few on the cliffs because they're very difficult for us to do, quite expensive. We use abseilers to do that, but we certainly keep it under control, and we keep all the weeds away from the tops of the cliffs. Eventually we hope to get them all under control as well.
And while it sounds a little bit cumbersome, it's actually very quick to do, particularly if you're doing it quite regularly. And it's a great way of building up your database, particularly in an area like we're doing 15 kilometres of the coast. We're active in about 450 hectares of that, so it's quite a big area to try and remember every weed that is you're going to locate. But if you come across a new weed, to be able to say, well, okay, I found this weed here, I've never seen it before, make sure we go back and look at it in whatever time frame we need to. And also if we need to say where are all the centre plants located in this 15 kilometres of coast, I can simply click on the polygons for centre and that will show me, and then that would tell us let's get back there before February, March when they start to flower, or in February, March when they start to flower, so you can see them and get them before they've set seed. Once you've got the seed bank out, that's a whole huge reduction in the potential population. You get the adults out, you've got a good chance of eradicating that particular weed.